Welcome to Transformative Principle. I am your host, Jethro Jones. You can find me on all the social networks at Jethro Jones. Today, I am excited because I'm writing my next book, which is going to be about rejecting the premise, and writing it with my friend Danny Bauer. Many of you know him, and we're excited about this idea. And one of the premises that we as educators have is that we need to be stressed, we need to be working all the time, and our bodies take a back seat. And so I'm bringing on Dr. David Lipman today. He owns Physical Evidence Chiropractic and is a seasoned chiropractic physician who has successfully treated thousands of patients. He has a deep personal commitment to biooptimization, and he has achieved extraordinary levels of strength, endurance, and overall health well into his 60s. And this is just an audio podcast, but let me tell you, looking at him, he does not look like he's in his mid-60s, that is for sure. And so his mission is to share the knowledge and processes that have profoundly benefited his own health, helping others to achieve optimal health and wellness. David, welcome to Transformative Principle. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me, Jethro. Very excited about this particular show, especially because you guys reach out to educators who affect, the youth. And, the best place to start when it comes to educating people is to get them growing up, understanding how their bodies work and really how they can mitigate the potential of things going wrong down the road by just understanding how to include certain things in their lifestyle that will prevent those things from happening.
Yeah. And you've started your life being healthy, right? And so you have done this for a long time. Not everybody's in that situation. So
Right.
we're going to talk a little bit about how to start making some changes. And rather than saying like, you got to do a million things, we're going to get real basic and start with simple things that you can do. So it's going to be a great conversation. My interview with Dr. David Lipman is coming up here in just a moment. So I brought David onto the show today because I want to talk about this idea of the premise that we adopt in education so regularly, that you've got to live on coffee, energy drinks, and chips, that you have to be a workaholic as a principal, that you have to give up family life, you have to give up balance, and you can't ever be sick because the school can't run without you. Those are all things that are prevalent in our industry. And I brought David on because he can speak to that and how important it is for us to take care of our bodies. So, David, let's talk first about the idea of stress first and how you can manage that. And what's a way that you can manage that in a healthy way to start out? Because every single principal deals with stress.
We as humans have stress as part of our normal functioning. And, the word we use as stress really is an activation of our sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system is fight or flight. So, if, you and I were sitting together in a room together and all of a sudden a lion walked in, we're either going to try to kill this thing or we're going to run like hell. So that's a normal stress response. There's all kinds of hormones and neurotransmitters that are part of that: adrenaline, epinephrine, and things that will, again, get us ready to fight like crazy or to run like crazy. And so that's a normal thing. However, you and I could be sitting in a room, no lion walks in, but we can watch one on the television and still get the same response. Or we can imagine that it happens and still get the same response. So the trouble with that idea of being able to, just think about something that's a stressful situation, even if it's not even realistic, in our bodies, in our minds, it is real. And that will create that stress hormone response. The problem is that it's supposed to be short-lived. But if we ruminate on thoughts and think about possibilities of things that might go wrong and things like that, you can continually keep yourself in a sympathetic overdrive, which is very unhealthy. It raises the body's cortisol levels, it causes inflammation, it starts to deteriorate the way our cells are functioning and making energy, because everything that goes wrong in our bodies, any disease that we've identified, over 32,000 actually, have one common denominator, and that's the reduction of energy production at the cell level. So when you think about something being detrimental to the basic unit of functioning, stress can do that. And then the drop down effect can lead to, the things we cause disease. Now, when I first learned that the common denominator being that a loss of energy that leads to 32,000 plus diseases, what I realized is we have one problem. losing energy at the cell level. And we have 32,000 plus symptoms of that. So it's so important to understand how, stress on a continued basis starts to negatively affect the body. But there are techniques to change that, but you just need some awareness and be dedicated to making that happen so you don't fall into that situation, and ultimately your performance is going to go down. You will tend to get sick, and you're going to be creating the actual thing that you don't want to happen in that
Yeah.
situation.
So that idea of losing energy at the cell level, and there are 32,000 manifestations of that. I think that's a great way to put it. I'm always looking for the ways that we can simplify what's going on and get to root causes and figure out what the issue really is so that we can then make some better decisions about what to do. And that it doesn't have to be, here's an example. Somebody is like, oh, I'm just not happy with where I'm at, and I'm going to do these 10 things to make changes in my life. And I promise you that person is going to fail and is going to give up because changing 10 things is too much. So
Yes.
when you say there's 32,000 symptoms of one problem, losing energy at the cell level, well, that's great, because if we just focus on getting that energy back at the cell level, then it makes everything else so much easier and it'll solve so many other things. So what are some things, some simple things, clear things we can do to get that energy back at the cell level?
Well, first, people have to realize that the modern world that we live in has many attacks against us in different ways. Toxic chemicals in the environment, plastics that we're using. And they found out more recently that every one of us has all these microplastics in our bodies that almost impossible to get rid of. And so identifying the things that you're doing in your everyday life, like using plasticware, drinking water from plastic bottles, those are some of the things that you could start to change. Go to glass, go to stainless steel, and start to understand all that this modern world is hurting us with. An example, again, the air that we breathe inside is actually not as good as outside air because it's more in a contained environment. So there's dust, there's all those things that affects us. So there's like a toxic load in our bodies every day from those things. There's also all this electricity around us. The electrical devices, our own electrical grid, wireless, 5G, cause what they call EMFs, or electromagnetic fields, that are high frequency. Now, the significance is that the very earth we live on, which is a biophysical entity, and we are biophysical entities in that we are electromagnetic energy beings in terms of how all of our physiology works. Our neurology is all electromagnetic. Our muscular system, the way we bring nutrients inside our cell membranes and then remove waste products, all of that is electromagnetic. So we have a constant bombardment in our modern world of all these high frequency electromagnetic fields that interrupt all that normal functioning. So the easiest way to mitigate that is to take your shoes and socks off and get on the grass, get on the dirt, get on the beach, and spend 30 minutes a day outside. You would be amazed to see what just that alone can do to your own inner functionings. And again, when your body's functioning well on the inside, that's going to help you deal with, the higher, functioning life of, educators or anybody that has a lot of responsibility. Also, another really important thing is getting enough oxygen, because we can't make enough energy in our cells without having enough oxygen. Most people think, well, I'm breathing, I've got enough oxygen. Nah, not even close. There's some great techniques that people can do. Wim Hof is very famous in terms of getting deep breathing on a routine basis with an exercise of sorts, where you're actually increasing the pressure of oxygen entering the body through the rapid inhales and exhales, and then holding the exhale, creating that draw in, and then bringing that big inhale in, and then sucking that oxygen in at a much higher concentration than we typically do. That, and getting your face into the sun. I mean, just spending a half hour a day doing those three things is enough to take how nature has provided, the creation around us has supported our physiology for centuries and centuries. It's only the modern world that we've made, the man-made world, that's really harming us in so many ways. So those are some really basic things to do to just start to change the things that are hurting us and causing the stress reactions and responses where our bodies just can't get out of its own way, so to speak. We get caught in these loops because our own bodies are just not recovering and restoring the way they're supposed to without these things.
Mm-hmm. And So a couple things. Number one, those are pretty simple things. They don't cost anything.
Right.
They are things that you can do right away. And some people are going to hear you talking about 5G and how the modern world is hurting us and say, "Oh, this guy's a kook. He doesn't know what he's talking about." And that, whatever. Some people are going to say that. However, the thing that I think is really valuable here is that even if you can't get out there and do this for 30 minutes, again, if you start, getting your bare feet on the grass or dirt, or you start working on your breathing and you just go outside more than you do right now, you're going to be taking steps in the right direction.
It causes
And
shift. Yes.
yeah, and that's really what we're talking about here. Part of this whole idea of rejecting the premise is saying, I don't have time, I don't have energy, I don't have money, I don't have whatever to do these things. And the reality is, this is something that you can do. And it's simple and small enough that you can make an impact with just these little things that you're doing. And people like complex, big things to do. And really, it doesn't have to be that big or complex. It can be really quite simple. And
Got
I
to be
say
practical
this,
too. It's got to be super practical for
it,
people to implement it.
exactly. And I say this because I have experienced this myself, where I go on a walk every single day outside, and it is often not very long, and it doesn't need to be, because just the little bit of time outside is moving, powerful. And I can tell on the days that I don't do it, how I'm just not feeling the same as the days that I do it. So, for example, just yesterday, sorry, Monday, today's Wednesday, just Monday, I woke up late, so I didn't get my morning walk in. I didn't go on a walk until lunchtime, and my whole morning just felt off until I went on that walk and cleared my head, and was able to breathe some fresh air. It was a little smoky, but it was still fresh air. And being outside, like, those things just really matter. So I appreciate you starting with something that is so simple and so easy. Now, you're a chiropractor, and so you do chiropractic adjustments. I've been to a chiropractor before, haven't been recently, but I really saw how doing those adjustments helped. And so, would you talk a little bit about that as well?
Absolutely. So just to kind of, grow a little bit beyond chiropractic, we've become what we call a biooptimization center. Chiropractic is a piece of that. But I realized early on that I do for my lifestyle a lot of things that are all geared to optimize my body's ability to do its best regenerating and healing, and to, most healthy living, so to speak. And I was fortunate, I started at a very young age, and I continued, all the way until I'm in my mid 60s now. But it's been so ingrained in my lifestyle that I've been fortunate to have longevity with it and the benefits now, because I got people that come in here that are 20 years younger than me, and they don't feel so good, and I feel great. And it's the way we all should feel. So chiropractic was actually founded on the principle of not treating back pain and neck pain. It was actually founded on the principle of removing obstacles at the spinal level that can cause an interference in how our nervous system is regulating our whole body. So in other words, when you have what we call subluxations, where the joints get locked up, there's muscle tension, it reduces nerve flow, it reduces blood flow. And where those areas of our body are supposed to be getting that nerve flow and the blood flow, they start to, react and not have what they need, oxygen, energy production, neural function to be functioning optimally. So chiropractic, as a philosophy, art, and science, is really geared to, again, tap into the body's best healing and regeneration by removing any obstacles that might be interfering from a structural or musculoskeletal standpoint, because our nervous system is so closely, intertwined with our, our skeletal system and our muscular system. So that's really where chiropractic, as an inclusion, as part of a wellness program for your, your wellness journey as an individual, is so important. And because we're also holistic doctors, we're looking at nutrition, because if we don't have the nutrients that we need for our cells to function optimally, they can't function optimally. It's not magic. We can't make hormones. We can't make enzymes. We can't make amino acids and B vitamins and neurotransmitters. We can't make that stuff if we don't have the nutrition. So chiropractic does cover removing obstacles and fortifying deficiencies so the body could do its best work. Nothing can heal the body like the body can.
I think that point is so important. Nothing can heal the body like the body can, because our bodies are amazing and designed for us to continue living, right? And so there's so much opportunity for the body to continue working well and helping and taking care of things that modern medicine still just doesn't understand and doesn't know how to actually fix or reverse or manage appropriately. And I think that is really fascinating. I, I want to shift just a little bit and talk about how we teach this to kids at a young age. And I want to start with a story. Many people who have been listening know that I've lost a lot of weight recently and that I've made some major changes in my life that have been really beneficial. And as I've done that, my kids have started seeing that themselves. And I tell you, my two high school kids both run cross country, and I cannot tell you they do more stretching and yoga and that kind of stuff, more breath work than I have ever done in my entire life. They've done more in just this season. It's incredible. And what's amazing is that they are not getting injuries and they're not getting sidelined because of the things that so many of their peers and teammates are experiencing, and they're performing really well. And it's really amazing to see, and something that I know, like we stretched before football practice when I was in high school, but it was like, let's get through this so that we can get to hitting each other. And like my kids spend a lot of time stretching and getting loose and rubbing their muscles out and all that kind of stuff. How do we teach this to kids in an effective way that will actually make a difference? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I have very definite thoughts. When I was growing up, you had to have gym class to graduate, junior high school. You couldn't miss. That wasn't something that, it was a requirement. Now, my contention now as an adult is that instead of spending time teaching us how to play football and baseball and those kinds of things, which chances are after high school, nobody's going to be doing, or very few, unless they go on to be professionals. Why instead, we can be teaching people how to learn how to take care of their bodies from a conditioning standpoint. We had, President Kennedy had started the President's Council on Physical Fitness, and we had a requirement that in 11th and 12th grade, we had to meet certain physical fitness, standards in terms of, how many pull-ups and push-ups and, sit-ups in 30 seconds or 60 seconds at the time. And that was something that was stressed as something that was important to be able to, be able to function at that certain level. Now, back in the 50s, they had a program that was just like crazy. There was 4,000 schools, high schools in the United States, that for their gym class, they were doing like 50-yard dashes, doing, climbing on climbing ladders. They were doing pull-ups, push-ups. They had very high standards of what physical fitness should be for, 17, 18-year-old men in this country. And the standard that they, brought it up to was like going through almost like basic training in the Army, which you look at today, most people, the young people, can't even go through basic training. They have to go through training before they could even get to basic training. So just think about how the loss of just physical fitness as an educational piece, just in gym class, has robbed these newer generations of, what they should be striving for from an endeavor and a health standpoint for themselves, the importance of physical fitness. Now, I would take it even further, that in health class, instead of teaching, just sex education, teach us, how do we learn how our bodies work? What can we do as individuals growing up? What is about taking supplements? Do we all take the same vitamins? Do we all need the same ones? Do some of us need different ones? Are there tests available for us to test ourselves and see what our individuality is, and then teach us how to integrate that into our lifestyle? So now, instead of just kind of going about our business and waiting until something goes wrong and going to the doctor, now we have a way to, through our daily lifestyle, through education, invest in the incline of our health as we get older, instead of just managing the decline of our health, because that's the way we've been taught, but it doesn't have to be that way. But you must educate people about the bodies that we all walk around in each day, because it's what we do every day in this body that's going to affect it. I tell my patients, look, you could come see me and I'm going to help you, but you're the one that's walking around in that body, and what you do is going to affect it so much more than I could ever. So, but they need education. And I think, school is the best place for people to learn that they can carry into adult life. Because again, they're not going to be playing football, most likely after high school, if at all. So those are the things that I think that the curriculums could start stressing those. So that's practical knowledge that we can all take with us. And then, we don't have to have what we have now. The young people, this generation has the least life expectancy in like 100 years. And
Yeah.
so that's a big problem, but we created that, but we could also solve it. But it has to start with education, in our young people.
And when I think about that, what I really like what you said there was this idea of investing in the incline of our health rather than managing the decline of it. And that's really a powerful, different approach, because that changes how you look at it. And truly, you should be getting stronger and healthier as you get older and gain more wisdom and experience. And the opposite is typically true, that we think people are in their peak at their early 20s, and then it's all downhill from there. And I think that's just a tragedy. And so I think about my own life and my dad, who struggled with his weight his whole life and didn't know how to manage it or do anything good with it until I was a full-fledged adult, and he finally figured out how to stay thin. Like, it's crazy that it took that long. And I feel like I followed in the same path as my dad with my own health. And I'm figuring that out now. And, kids don't need the information because they're healthy and strong as youth. And yet, if they don't keep that up, then problems are going to happen. I heard about a study recently that if you maintain your fitness and activity level that from age 20 until age 50, you don't have any change in metabolism during that time. And then when you turn 50 or thereabouts, then your metabolism starts getting a little bit worse, but not very much. But if you don't maintain your physical activity, then your metabolism gets worse faster. And it goes back to what you said, that our bodies are already designed to help us. And so, if you maintain being physical through your 20s, then it's going to pay dividends for years. And then it continues up through your 30s, 40s, and 50s until you get to where you're at in your mid 60s, and you're feeling great and looking great and not looking like you're an old man who's ready to retire.
I mean, so important. What I've noticed is that the more we strive for the easy life, for comfort, the more unhealthy we get. Stress adaptation is how our bodies work to continually to promote that growth or that investment in the incline of health. The more we stress ourselves, the more we grow and we regenerate, as opposed to being sedentary, because then we're not causing or stimulating the body to change, to adapt to anything, to overcome, to grow. And that's a very quick decline that'll happen after 40, not after 20 so much, but certainly after 30s and 40s, that you'll really start that'll manifest very quickly. Years ago, we probably spent, on the whole, most of 90% of our time outdoors, physically doing something for work, manual labor. And, it actually was a really good thing, because it kept our bodies moving, and it kept us, more exposed to, the earth and the air and the sun, as opposed to just sitting at computers, being indoors in an artificial environment, having all this electricity around us, and eating convenient foods, which is fast food for the most part, or processed foods. So it's all, the modern world is just creating all this stuff that we have to consciously make a step and start to change the things that are convenient for us, because it's that convenience that I think is robbing us of our health. The more convenient life is, as I said, the more unhealthy we are. We have to, get up and change the channels by hand, instead of use the remote control. Every little thing in our lives, taking steps versus the elevator, all those things are so important. But we we've just succumbed to the new technologies of how everything's made our lives easier. Now with AI, I mean, why do we need to even think, right? I mean, what eventually will they even need us for? But we have to have a revolution of gaining back ourselves and our control of our health, because our modern world's not pushing us in that direction. We have to get that back. There's enough resources to know how to do that as an individual. Your dad figured it out a little bit later in life than you probably would have liked that to, but he did nonetheless, because you have to seek out this information. The mainstream stuff that you see on TV is, hey, you got a headache, take a pill. You got some autoimmune disease, take a pill. And, all those things are not going to tap into the body's ability, again, to heal itself and to be strong. In our lives, Jethro, we're either growing or we're degenerating. There's no third direction. Maintenance doesn't exist. There's only one of two.
Yeah, that is so true. Well, this has been a great conversation. Last question is, what is one thing, and you probably are going to go back to what you said earlier. That's okay. What is one thing that a principal can do this week to be a transformative leader like you?
They have to find their switch inside to say, okay, this is something I have to start now doing. Maybe not the 10 things, maybe it's one thing. Maybe it's as simple as when you first wake up, drinking 8 to 12 ounces of water, and put some mineral salt in it, which is going to provide the trace minerals that are going to hydrate your cells from the get-go. Remember, you've been sleeping 6, 7, 8 hours. You haven't been taking any water, and our cells need hydration to function. People hear hydrate, but they don't even realize that it's not just into the body, it's actually inside the cells. And having electrolytes is what helps to draw that water into the cells so they can function energetically. Again, a big part of having those cells make energy is having enough water present. And so the first thing in the morning, if you just drank 8 to 12 ounces of water with some mineral salt, a half a teaspoon of like Himalayan salt, there's some really good healthy salts. I'm not talking about Morton's iodized salt. Yeah. I'm talking about raw salt. So there's 86 to 96 trace minerals in there. That's a great way to start. And you would not believe how clear-headed that alone could make you, because most people are walking around dehydrated. So if I had to say one thing, that would be it.
Yeah. Well, and Trish Wilkinson, who has been on the show before, has made that exact point and encourages schools to start every single day with kids drinking a full glass of water and going for a walk, and those
build it into the curriculum, right?
Exactly. And going back to what we were saying before, that is how you make these changes, that you model it and you talk about it and you do it, rather than just say, this is how you should live your life. You say, this is how we believe we should live our lives. And we drink water first thing we do at school, and then we go for a walk as a school. And some schools have actually taken that up and have built that into the day. And it's pretty cool to build community, be outside and connect with each other and connect with nature. So good stuff. David, how would you like people to connect with you if they have questions or are interested in more about what you do?
Yes. So we have a URL. It's physicalevidenceconnect.com. Physical Evidence Connect. It'll take you to a form fill where you can enter your name, your email address, your phone, and have a place where you can ask questions or share maybe some things that you've been struggling with. And that'll come directly to me. And then we could set up to have a nice conversation either on the phone or on a Zoom. And I can help you. One of the things I love about being on the podcast now is that I can help people that might never step foot in my office. But there are ways to help once I start to drill down at what somebody is kind of suffering from and where those symptoms might be coming from. Because ultimately, it's going to be coming from a loss of energy at the cell level. So how do we drill down to figure out what can we start to have them do now, as opposed to looking for some big complicated pathology that looking that way, instead of just like you said earlier, just going basic to see what can you start doing now just to get your body to do its best work. Because that's what it comes down to. There's no magic medicine. There's magic biochemistry that our creator created us with, and that's where the best healing is ever going to come. But we can help guide those processes of people that just aren't doing the things that they need to support themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Well, David, thank you so much for being part of Transformative Principle today. It was great to chat with you. And once again, the website is physicalevidenceconnect.com. And thank you so much. Great having you on.
Thank you.